Hello, everyone. Today we're talking about the case of Geraldine Settee. I don't really have an intro for this one. This is actually a case I learned about not that long ago, and I decided to just go ahead and do it. All the links I used for research will be down below, like always. And let's get into this. So, Geraldine Leona Settee was born on January 20th, 1958, and she was the youngest of 10 kids. She spent the early years of her life on Matheson Island, a Métis community, at the Narrows of Lake Winnipeg, Manitoba, before her family relocated to the big city, moving to St. Anne's Road in Winnipeg. Growing up, she was known for her enthusiasm and sensibility. While she had typical preteen interests like music, animals, and pranks, she was also very smart. Sadly, the 11-year-old life was cut short in 1970, and that is because she would be horrifically murdered. At around 8 p.m. on January 1st, 1970, Geraldine left home to purchase some potato chips and some pop from the drugstore at 813 St. Mary's Road. Along with $1.30 in change, she had with her her transitor radio that her dad Leonard had got her for Christmas. Given how close the drugstore was to their home, she wasn't expected to be gone for long, maybe 8 minutes at most. But when 25 minutes had gone by with no word from her, Leonard grew worried. He asked one of the siblings to go look for her, which is when they realized that the business wasn't open, and Geraldine was nowhere to be found. The next morning, the family was searching for her, and at 11 a.m., her sister and brother-in-law would find her partially frozen body in a vacant lot next to 785 St. Mary's Road at Framer Avenue. While they didn't know it yet, the local emergency number had received a call from an unknown person earlier that day saying her body could be found at that site. Before any more details would be gathered, the person would hang up. I can't imagine how horrifying it had to be her sister and her brother-in-law to find that little girl like that. That is absolutely horrifying to think about. An autopsy showed that she had been stabbed 5 times in the back and chest with a spring blade knife that was 2 centimeters in width and between 15 to 18 centimeters in length. Some of the blows were so strong that they went through the sternum and broke a rib, leading police at the time to theorize the culprit was likely a male. She was fully clothed when she was found, with 3 buttons from her jacket found beneath her body. She wasn't sexually assaulted, nor was she robbed, and police wouldn't say if they ever found the murder weapon. At the time, police services in Winnipeg weren't centralized within one forest, and because of that, the now defunct I believe it's pronounced St. Vital, police was in charge of the initial investigation. At the time, no witnesses came forward, and while persons of interest were brought in for questioning, all of them would be released. While speaking with media, Leonard revealed that Geraldine had answered a phone call on December 5th, 1969, which left her scared. The day after, she fainted when the phone rang again. It was only after her murder that the family learned that 2 teens from the area had been threatened by another young person with a knife 1 week prior to Geraldine's death. It is believed that the one who called the house and hung up, or not hung up, but called the house and scared her, is responsible for what happened to her. In 1971, a $1,500 reward was offered. A year later, Leonard would die, never knowing what happened to his daughter, or knowing who did it, I should say, never receiving justice for his daughter. That was the same year that the reward was announced. A youth was interrogated and charged in relation with a murder under the Juvenile Delinquents Act. The charge was stayed in 1972 due to a lack of evidence, and in the years since, little headway has been made. The family runs the Facebook group Justice for Geraldine Settee. And a quote from Glenn Settee, her brother. Glenn says, "It was a brutal crime. It never leaves you." End quote. The family wants to raise public awareness about it and to finally solve Geraldine's case. They also want an apology from the police due to how the case has been handled so far. And I think it's quite apparent that whether or not they were capable of solving this crime, they did not take it seriously. And because of that, they found their own loved one's body, and that is just horrifying to think about. Anybody who has any information about this case at all, you are urged to contact the Winnipeg Crime Stoppers phone number at 204-786-8477. And that is the heartbreaking case of Geraldine Settee. So, I'm used to doing cases, and obviously the police don't do much or anything at all. But knowing that earlier that day, the emergency line had received a call about a frozen body or a dead body that could be found, and clearly they didn't take it seriously or they hadn't bothered to go check it out yet, that the family had to go do their own search and then find the body of their loved one who was dead. That is just horrifying to me, but it's also ridiculous because I don't know how you could just not take that serious. Even if you know there's a slightest chance that it could be a prank, why would you just not take it serious? And I had seen in some articles that records of this case, because it was not a centralized in one force, some of them have been lost, some of the reports weren't taken all that great, and it's just incredibly negligent police work here, and it's so sad that basically it sounds like the family was doing a lot of the work of searching for her and then putting out information about her. I can honestly say that I could find nothing about what the police were doing. I genuinely could find nothing about that. This is an older case, and I always try to have okay, well, maybe it's an older case, there just isn't a lot of information, but it's just kind of ridiculous, honestly. This 11-year-old child was murdered, she deserves to have justice, and the fact that the family is the one doing most of the brunt work is kind of just ridiculous. But when I saw this case, I had to talk about it, and I wanted to tell you guys about Geraldine. And thank you guys so much for listening to Geraldine's story. Please let me know what you think down below. I'm going to assume that Geraldine never told her father, Leonard, what the person on the phone said to her. I couldn't find anything anywhere, what, was it a threat? What, if it was a male or a female? I couldn't find anything about that, so I can only assume that maybe she was too scared to tell her father or any of her family members what happened. But I would be interested in knowing, what was said to her that scared her so much that the next day when the phone call rang, she fainted. And then later on, she is murdered in such a horrific way. It really just... I don't doubt that person probably has something to do with her death, and maybe could have even been the person that threatened the other young kids in that area with a knife. But it just kind of makes you wonder, what was said. Maybe if we had known that, maybe it could have, maybe narrow down who it could have been. But I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. What do you think happened to Geraldine? Do you think it was the person on the phone? Do you think it was another young person? Do you think the young person and the person on the phone that said something nasty to her was the person that did this? Let me know your thoughts down below. Like always, thank you so much again for listening to Geraldine's story, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye, guys.